Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Lucian Zaborowski. I am the Associate Director of Marketing here at Creatio. And we're very excited today to have you at this webinar with us. The webinar title is 7 Reasons Why Your CRM Does Not Work Anymore, What to Consider. Today with me, I am very, very excited and very honored to be with Sam Biardo from Technology Advisors and John Binda from Creatio. They will be your presenters today, and the session is very exciting. And so, without further ado, let's start it and let's get right into talking about what exactly is it that we will cover. And again, but here's your fantastic presenters of today. And they will have a chance to introduce themselves to you as well as the companies they represent. But before they do, again, I would like just to touch about the agenda and some organizational items of our session. So in terms of the agenda, we will just start it with the introductions of our fantastic speakers. We will then go into just touch about the current CRM industry trends, what is going on in the market and with the technology itself. We will then dive right into the big topic, and that is 7 reasons why your CRM may no longer be filling and getting all the needs that you need as a business. And after that, we will talk a little bit about Creatio technology and Creatio superpowers, as we call them, just to give you a little bit of a background on our company and our product. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. And so we encourage you to really put your questions and thoughts into the chat area of the webinar, and we will be very happy to address them at the end. And I will verbally ask your questions to our speakers. Just a couple of reminders, we are recording this session, so if you are not able to stay with us throughout, we will be sure to share a link with you afterwards via email. We will also try to answer any questions that we can get to offline afterwards. So let's get right to it, and let's start with introductions. So I will hand over to our first speaker, Sam Biardo. Sam.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is real simple. I was a college professor who specialized in software engineering and performance of large databases, who decided to start a consulting company, which is so long ago. We were doing Salesforce automation, not CRM. And from there, we decided we needed better tools. So we built a product called Starfish. And I continue to run both of those organizations while producing 2 podcasts a month on CRM and playing 60 rounds of golf a year. Next slide. And so who is Technology Advisors? Well, like I said, we've been doing this for 30 years. It was called Salesforce automation. Now we like to call it a digital transformation, but it's pretty much helping our customers help their customers sell and market. And we've been with Creatio for about 6 years now, and we are a top partner for them. We've been focused on customer success for over 10 years. I had a formal program to help our customers and give back to them, because I know if our customers are successful, everyone's successful. We do Creatio training. Like I said, we own a data migration and integration company called Starfish. We provide our customers full-time support, and we have a series of videos and documents to help our customers determine what are the best practices around implementing CRM. And now to John.
Thank you, Sam, and hello everyone, and thanks for joining the webinar today. My name is John Binda. I'm a strategic account executive here at Creatio, and I've worked for several CRM vendors and resellers over the past several years. I've been with Creatio for about 5 years and introduced Creatio to a number of enterprise customers here in North America, and also helped a lot of companies to what Sam calls digital transformation. So happy to be here and looking forward to the webinar. So just to give everyone a quick background, if you're not familiar with Creatio, we are a global organization. We have about 5 offices around the globe. I'm based in Boston, which is our headquarters, and we currently have about 650 employees, and What I think is most impressive about that is about half of them are in full-time development. So we do an awful lot of R&D on the product. We do a major update every 3 months, and that constantly evolving technology and keeping up with the latest trends. We also have a great network of about 700 partners worldwide, Technology Advisors being one of our premier partners here in North America. And we cover with our customers and partners over 110 different countries worldwide. I also want to talk a little bit about the analyst recognition we've received, and I'll spend a few more minutes on that on the next few slides, but we've gotten some great recognition from both Gartner and Forrester, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail. So for Gartner, we're in quite a few of their Magic Quadrants because of the breadth of the product and the offering that we have. The two we're most proud of is probably the Salesforce Automation Magic Quadrant, where we were listed as a leader for 2020. Some great accomplishment there, and also for the Magic Quadrant for CRM Lead Management, also named as a leader in that category. And of course, all these reports are available to the public, but this is just some great recognition from Gartner. It shows all the hard work we put into the product. But Gartner's just not the only one. We also have Forrester, who also has included us in a number of their wave reports. And again, it just shows the breadth of the product. We do sales, marketing, and service automation, but we also have a low-code platform and a product called Studio that has a very strong workflow engine attached to it. But this just shows the breadth of the product as we can be represented in a number of these wave reports. And again, very excited about this exposure. So we thought we'd kick things off today just talking about some trends that we see in the industry. So it's a constantly evolving market, and some of the key areas that we focused on, I'll talk about on the next slide. Some key areas, and we'll just go through these very quickly, but the first is for self-service for end-to-end customer journey. I think that in today's environment, a lot of companies are looking for ways to really enable self-service to their customers, to really walk them through the entire journey. Second, we have AI and automation, being able to leverage to improve outcomes. And third, it's the hyper-personalization, which really helps with one-on-one interactions. We see this in a lot of different technologies today, really trying to focus on providing the type of service with the channel the customer wants and everything else. It's vitally important. And fourth, we have unified CRM for marketing, sales, and service. Having everything on one database and one application is very important. Integration is available, but if you can cut down the number of integrations you have, the better off you'll be. And finally, we have the focus on customer value models that really help with ongoing customer success. And again, these are just some of the trends we've identified in this space, but really thinking about CRM as a foundational technology and really building a lot of things for your business, and really the focus on your end user, the customer, is absolutely essential in today's market. Some great statistics. The first, according to Gartner, they talk about 40% of organizations are really kind of trying to prioritize their needs. And the first one is speed. The second one is cost. The last one is scope. So we can obviously see that these are sort of, some evolving trends in the industry. The second one is by Deloitte. They talk about 28% of millennials thinking that CRM is critical for success of a company. And we see that more and more. I think the younger generation is moving up and really expecting to have certain things in place when they start a new job. And for Zion Market Research, they talk about the global AI market for CRM will reach 123 billion by 2024. That's a staggering statistic, but it just shows the power of some of the new technologies out there in the marketplace. And finally, Gartner again predicts that 70% of organizations will increase investment to improve speed to change. And that's something we're really going to focus on as we continue our presentation today. But I'm going to sort of pass the baton back over to Sam, and we'll try to make this interactive.
Thanks, John.
So Sam, I'll let you take the lead on this.
Yeah, so let's just go to the next slide, because I think this is the real key. When we were putting this list together, we had about 11, maybe 12 reasons, and we had to narrow it down. And so we picked these, but frankly, there are a lot of reasons why your CRM doesn't work anymore. These just happen to be the ones that were we thought are the most important out of the list. And it first starts out with the fact that the UIs are aged. As you probably know, just from looking at websites, about every 3 or 4 years, there's a look and feel change that happens to every website out in the world that's trying to keep up to date. And what's really happening is that as we continue to improve our web UIs, they become more intuitive. I noticed that the web UIs in general make it easier for me to use other applications without knowing anything about them. So we're going to look at the aging UI. A lot of CRMs don't have BPM in it. They say they do, or they say they have workflow, but they really don't. And so it's really to take a look at that. When the aging CRMs were first invented, there was essentially only a few forms of communication, and they really don't support the concept of omni-channel, which means that people communicate through many different ways now. And so we want to focus on that. And then the older CRMs were database driven, so they're company or contact centric, but they don't do both. And there's some issues around that. Older CRMs have scripting languages, newer CRMs go to low code. And so we want to talk about how that affects things. And then older CRMs have lots of bad data in them, and bad data produces bad results. And then finally, the original CRMs that came out, they're all about sales and nothing else. And the reality is today, the world's driven by lots of things, including marketing and service. And so we find that 54% of all consumers believe that the company needs to improve their customer experience. And so that's from a PricewaterhouseCoopers study. So the first thing, aging UIs. So let's drill into that a little bit. So if you go back and think about when the first CRMs came out that were web-based, what they did is they took their Windows-based CRMs and mimicked the UI for the web. And that was frankly great, if you were an existing user. But frankly, it made it harder for new users to actually adopt that solution. And if you actually go look, you'll even see that every different CRM that's come out recently, they all have a pattern of how the UI looks that makes it more intuitive. But the older aging CRMs, they don't follow that pattern. And so that becomes a problem because that basically hurts your adoption rate. The other thing we saw on the first cloud-based CRMs was the fact that they were really on-premise solutions, just hosted at someplace like Amazon, and because of that, they also did not have that uniform cloud look and feel, or web look and feel that was happening. They sort of were like stuck in time.
And honestly, you talk about the expectations of like the new generation. They use social media very heavily, and they're used to using it on any device they have. And they come in with certain expectations. And a lot of these older CRM systems will look like they're antiquated, look like they're out of date, and the adoption rate will probably drop significantly with that particular audience.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's the critical component. It's when you're used to using applications, even common applications like Facebook and LinkedIn, there's sort of intuitiveness to it. I know if I use one or two of them and I see like three little lines in the corner, I know that's a menu, right? And exactly. What's happened is the older CRMs don't have that type of UI, so you're hunting and pecking around. It's sort of like using a green screen, when Windows apps were around.
It's kind of like driving an old car. It doesn't have all the buttons and all the features you're used to, and you get an old car, you're like, what is this? How do I operate this?
Absolutely, and then the other key issue is that still there's a couple companies out there who are they're calling it their web application, but the reality is it's their Windows application running in like a Citrix terminal. And when I actually did an eval of one in the last 30 days, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I actually called them up and said, no, I want to run your web app. And they goes, this is our web app. So it's really surprising because what they tried to do is maintain a single code base. And unfortunately, now they've got this old looking Windows application running in a window. Yeah, it runs inside my browser, but it's really a very old, archaic way of doing things. And there's no there, I gain nothing from understanding how current web applications are built by using this, because it's in fact a Windows app.
Absolutely.
And so we'll see here that 22% of all implementations are linked, failures are linked to user adoption problems. So if you're having adoption problems at your company because you're using an older CRM, this may be the issue. Our next one is simple BPM. And the reason why I called it simple BPM is because workflow is not BPMN. And everyone will, I've seen companies like rename their workflow to their BPM, but it really isn't. And the key things about BPM is that it has lots of different things like branching and error handling and drill down processes and recursive processes, and the support for multiple processes. And what's going on right now is that you'll see that companies, the older CRMs, they'll add in like a fake workflow. So what they'll do is they'll add in a lead, a set, like a little tool that lets you move leads or track the process of a lead process, or they'll add a tool in or an object in that'll let you follow a sales process. But typically they don't support the true branching, error handling, things that you would find in a workflow. And in fact, one CRM this week or last week announced their new workflow, and when you look at it, it's essentially database event triggers. And so this is just simply a problem. If you're using one of these older tools and you think you have a workflow, and because the vendor told you have a workflow, you really need to look at what the power of a true business process tool is. Like Creatio, they have an incredible set of tools to help you build BPMN processes, and those are the types of things that are critically important when you're working with your CRM. And so your old CRM may fail because it can't do those things. It can't automate your processes. John, do you see this a lot where people have problems?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a key is that a lot of people call it something different, but I think the key is that it has to be easy to modify these workflows, because you're always looking to evolve and change and analyze and enhance the workflows. So you have to be able to give them a tool that's relatively easy to configure, because the world is changing so quickly. We've seen some enormous changes over the past 6 months, but you have to be ready to change with that and have a tool that allows you to do that. So I think those are all key areas, and obviously have all the flexibility of a true BPMN tool. So
right, and the BPM needs to run across not only just one silo like sales, but it has to run across multiple silos, so or multiple components or applications. So you should be able to have workflows that start out on the marketing side and move to the sales side. And you need to have events that are inside your workflow that lets you bypass whole sections of the workflow. If I'm selling to a total stranger, I have a different process than if I'm selling to the brother-in-law of the CEO of the company. Okay. Just there's some credit check things that'll probably get skipped there, and that's true. Business processes are changed based on the role of the person you're talking to, and they span not just they span beyond just sales or beyond just marketing. They run through the entire process from the first part the person is inquires about the product from the marketing side, to the point that they're retiring the product 10 years later, there should be workflows that run through that whole process or portions of that process. And a lot of the older CRMs can't do that. They just are siloed. So that's another.
It's interesting, Sam, you mentioned, like, across different departments like this, and now a lot of our customers are actually finding new ways to use the workflow engine and to create efficiencies in other operational areas of the company. And it's always kind of funny because they call us and say, is this okay? And we say, sure, that's great. And they say, well, it costs more. We say, no, but they're finding new ways to use it. And in fact, it's driving this whole market around BPM and the low-code platform to create new opportunities outside of traditional sales, marketing, and service.
Right, and when you integrate your CRM with your back office, and now you have information like inventory or manufacturing, now you have workflows that will connect and say, can I actually sell them this? Do we have any in the inventory? So there you can have all these new workflows that are out there that work not only across your sales or your CRM side of the business, but when you integrate, you can pull data about manufacturing and do things like, well, if I've got an opportunity that's ready to close, maybe I need to tell the ERP to order some parts, things like that.
You don't take our word for it, because they're talking Business Insider that this market's going to double in size in the next 5 years. So we're seeing some aggressive growth in this space. But I know the focus for today's presentation is around CRM, but there's a lot of opportunity for BPM throughout the organization.
Yep. And so the next area we came up with was the fact that there is no omni-channel communications, and the reason for this is actually rather simple. When the older legacy CRMs were built, there were just two forms of communication. I picked up the phone and called the guy, or I might email them. And the reality is that
options.
yeah, those were the options. And so you're gonna find a lot of CRMs out there that support, inbound call, outbound call, and email, but they don't support other things like text or chat or messages through LinkedIn. So in this year, I've had conversations with customers from a LinkedIn chat, for example. From sending them text messages, from Zoom, tracking Zoom meetings. And the reality is that it's critically important to keep these conversations inside your notes, otherwise you lose data. And so if your CRM doesn't support omni-channel communications, you're losing conversational information about your prospects and customers. And so that's the reason why, Creatio has a phone app, so that when I email someone from that mobile phone app, I'm tracking that, or if I'm texting someone, I'm tracking that. And that becomes critically important, to track all conversations with your customers and prospects.
We talk a lot about personalization, Sam, and we talk about how that affects content that we deliver, but it's also the channel. So if you can determine, let the customer or prospect decide how they want to communicate with you, and then you can identify that, you're going to raise that level of interaction with the customer and communicate with them in whatever channel they prefer. You might find out they prefer text, so all their communication goes via text. That's personalization based on the information you've collected from the customer. So it's all great to have these options. It's not one size fits all. You're going to have different people use different channels, and that's perfect as long as the CRM application can handle it.
Yeah, and if you look at things like field service, you're going to find that they don't use the normal channels. So if you've just had any repairman out to your house, you know that there might be an email, but the reality is they're going to call you and send you a text message the morning of and giving you a time when they're going to be there. And then they're giving you a text message saying they're on their way, and they'll arrive at a particular time. And those types of things are all automated and need to be tracked, from a field service perspective. And so if you actually look and think about how people communicate, it's not only what they prefer, but there's sort of common standards that are expected, depending on the type of service you're providing. So like I say, if you're doing field service, now SMS is the standard way of communicating. And so that becomes real important to track all that as well.
I think being proactive, it cuts down a lot of the inbound calls and things like customer service used to deal with all the time. If you can be proactive in those communications, you're going to cut down a lot of the traffic coming inbound saying, where's my technician? Where's my, guy showing up for the appointment? It's just, it's a time saver as well.
And of course, if you have a good BPN tool, those are all automatic anyway, so you're not really doing that.
Exactly.
So the next one on our list is literally whether you're company or contact centric. So but you're not both. And so if you go back and look at the legacy CRMs, there was a whole bunch of them that were contact centric, like ACT and Goldmine are good examples. You have others that were company centric. They were, well, we're B2B. And so they require a company before they can have a contact. You just can't have a contact without a company. And so you have a whole set of those. And that's really was driven by the fact that both of those types of systems were all built on a relational database model. And because they were built on a relational database model, they wanted to keep a certain level of organization of their data. And by enforcing a company that has to come before a contact, or a contact that has a loosely fitted company, that was really because that's the way the data had to be stored. Today, that now posing some problems. So when people try to take a B2B CRM and try to have a contact come in without sufficient information, what ends up happening is that model falls apart, because then we do things like, well, I'm going to create a company that's fake, and I'm then going to add my contact in so I can add the contact in and so I can search for them. Okay, and so all of a sudden you start getting inaccurate or incomplete or just made up data, because you're trying to shoehorn a different model of communicating with somebody into the model that the database is trying to enforce for your legacy CRM. And
it's very true, Sam. Sometimes when you're looking at replacing a legacy system, you obviously want to see how they're using it, and you see some pretty surprising things, because they're all workarounds to address the issues. Like, you have to have a company to enter a lead, and some of these workarounds people have lived with for years, and they realize there's a different way to do it. And of course, when you see it, you're like, why do you do that? And they say, well, that's the only way we could do it. It was a workaround based on the limitations of the technology. And then the light bulb goes off in their head, like, there's a better way to do it now, and it's much easier.
Right, and that's because now we have object-based databases, or we've found ways of abstracting a relational database to support an object-based solution. But the older CRMs still are stuck with a non-object based. They'll put a web service together and tell you they're object based, but they're not, because they still have that requirement. And what's happened over the years is, for example, if I have a contact database where the company is not really required, but then after a while it becomes an afterthought to add in the company, you end up getting a lot of duplicate company names, and that leads to levels of corruption of data. Same thing's true if you have a contact-based data, a company-focused data that you're trying to add contacts to, and you make up company names, and now you end up having a bunch of workarounds that you have to deal with when you're moving to an object database. The other thing that was interesting, and this was a conversation I had about 5 years ago, but this person contested that the reason why legacy systems have leads is because they were B2B solutions that they needed to put contacts in, but they couldn't. So they came up with a new construct called a lead. And if you actually look at some of the newer CRMs they really don't have the construct of a lead anymore. A lead is just an attribute of a contact that's not associated with any company, which I think is a interesting legacy. So if you have a lead module, you're probably working with a much older system that was put in there as an afterthought. Anyway, so so this becomes a problem for people who have the legacy systems. You really need to think about when you are looking at your next CRM for something that has more object-based, because that solves this problem. And so the next section here really is they have scripting, not low code. And we'll go back to historic reasons. Well, why scripting? Well, because what happened was that when these systems were built, you needed programmers to make changes. And because you needed programmers to make changes, and programmers knew things like Visual Basic and C++ and Java, PHP, they made their internal scripting languages VB, Java, PHP, and so on. And those have stuck into the language. And because of that, they really couldn't take advantage of low code. Sure, they could have visual form builders and screen builders, and they've done some of that, but when it gets down to doing anything serious, it still fell back on a scripting language that was based on a programming language. And the outcome of that was they were requiring programmers, and they've become not easy to modify. And as you can see from our comment below, is that low-code development platforms low-code development platforms accelerate your development by 5 to 10 times. And that's really true. That's a really important fact. And it's just the fact that these legacy systems are stuck with the scripting languages, and they can't necessarily get away from that. They have to continue to support that because they have to continue to support their customers. But
yeah, it's interesting, Sam. It reminds me of a story. I met with an existing customer once that hired a new VP of sales, and we were going through our typical presentation, showing some slides, and we were really focused on low code. And he kind of paused us at one point and said, "Why is low code important to me? I'm the VP of sales." And before we could answer the question, his admin answered the question saying, "Because if you need to make a change to a field, a workflow, or a process, whatever you need to make a change in, we can do that in a matter of minutes, where in the past it would have taken days or weeks, depending on who had to do it, whether it was outsourced or done in-house." And then the VP of sales quickly understood, if he needs to make a change, it'll be done immediately and not put on a waiting list somewhere to be done in the future sometime.
Right, and that's exactly true, because now that function gets moved to the sales department, and it's not part of IT. And
this
IT
admin,
is,
this admin at this particular place was a sales operations guy, was not a technical guy.
yeah, and so this low code becomes very, very important. So when you're looking at your next CRM, make sure they have a low code platform associated with it. The next thing we're going to talk about is the fact that you're burdened by old and inaccurate data, and this really reflects to the fact that if you've had a CRM for more than 10 years, you're probably, and in particular you're using a legacy CRM, you're having problems with inaccuracies. You can't get the quality, because you have bad quality data. A lot of other things start to fail. You don't get exact reports. You spend a lot of time cleaning data. You can send emails out and get a lot of bounces. There's just a ton of reasons why having old data and not is a problem. And so there's little to no deduplication. When there is deduplication, it's based on exact field matches like phone numbers and email addresses, and not fuzzy matching, which there are a bunch of fuzzy matching tools that are out there today. There's typically no data augmentation. When there's now CRMs that when you type in just a few things like maybe name and phone number, name and email, they can give you 100 facts about that person. And also this leads to data validation. At the end of the day, you want to validate that the data is accurate. So as someone's putting it in, you want it to bounce against some master database somewhere that can look up that person or that company and say, oh yeah, that's the right address, that's the right phone number. And so what's happened now is with the older tools, they don't come with that, and they don't even support simple types of queries that will say things like, show me all the records where the phone number has alphas in them. The way they fixed that problem in the past was they tried to overlay a format on a phone number so the phone number could always fit in that format. And then you'd see people trying to work around that by putting like an extension with an X in that field and some numbers afterwards. And that became a problem with the quality of the data. And so what you really need to look at is for your CRMs to have tools inside of them that will help them keep the data clean. And as you can see here from our point, poor data quality holds back approximately 30% of all marketers from delivering an excellent customer experience. I saw a Dun & Bradstreet report that said that, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the 20% range, that 20% of your data becomes inaccurate after 1 year.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering. We talked to a lot of companies. A good sign of using an older CRM system with old and accurate data is if they're using spreadsheets to manage their forecasts, or you ask them, well, why do you use that? Well, because we can't rely on the CRM data anymore. And I've heard that so many times. And why are you looking to replace the CRM system? Because the data is just a mess there. We need to start from scratch or have someone really come in and clean it up. And even some companies charge extra for things like deduplication, and that should be standard in applications. And it's definitely something that's ongoing. It's not just something you do once a year. You should be going back and checking that system weekly, monthly, whatever it is, just to make sure it stays accurate.
Yeah, and there's simple tools that you can plug into. In the United States, there is the government sells a change of address database that's relatively inexpensive, and you can always sync your data against that. What they do is every month they give you every address that's changed and their old address, and simply by matching that data up, you can clean your data on a regular basis. There's a lot of little easy things you can do to keep your data clean and accurate. But the first thing you should do is put together a master data management plan that does things like, hey, do I really need an email that was sent to a prospect 10 years ago? You know, and come up with whatever rules you have, and then probably throw away about 1/3 of your data because you don't need it. And once you've done that, your system's going to run faster, and then that's your plan going forward to keep your data clean. So
I'm sort of a pack rat myself, but 10 years, that's a long time to keep stuff for.
yeah, I'm sidebar. I'm a pack rat, and I have to go through and force myself to clean out, run stuff to clean out data that's old. So I get the pat rack, the pat rat concept, but no, you want the system to perform really well. You keep your data clean and keep it light.
There's lots of ways to do that.
Yeah, and so our last one's about siloed sales CRM, and it really, the issue is that the legacy systems only focused on sales. When you start looking at the original, the maximizers, the gold mines, the Axe, the sales logics, those original CRM systems, I can't remember all of them that were out there, but those systems all focused on sales. And what happened was then they came and said, well, we're going to add customer service and marketing, and two things happened. Either they bought a customer service and a marketing company and they've integrated them together, or they created a giant data mart where they shove data from their 3 different systems in one place so you can report on it. But very few of them have an integrated, completely integrated common database solution. And so what happens is that once if you're doing integrations, you get sometimes leads to some types of synchronization or errors in getting data out. And without trying to name a product, there's a very popular marketing automation product that if you look at their web service, you can pull everything out except email opens and web visits, which are 2 things you'd probably want to know. in your
Absolutely.
CRM. And so, you know, but it's probably one of the most popular MA solutions out there right now. And so what you're going to find is that the things like that, incomplete APIs and web services, are part of the problem that's causing the inability um, to have your CRM and marketing automation talk to one another. And that's why you need to find products that weren't built separately and then forced to integrate, but products that were designed from the first day to be integrated.
And Sam, one of the places you really see that is in marketing. I know when we talk to a lot of people on the marketing side, we say, you know, what's your biggest pain point? And they say, well, we do all these campaigns and we think we know which ones are paying off, but we're not absolutely sure. And we say, well, why? Well, once the lead is passed to the sales group, it goes into a different application, and then they may or may not close that opportunity. And if you have everything on one database, you can follow that lead coming in, attribute it to a campaign that was sent out, and then follow that through the qualification process and even the opportunity process. And if the deal is closed, you can immediately tie that revenue back to the actual campaign that was built. And that's when marketing says, wow, I've always tried to find a way to do that. And you're able to do that because you're using one system and you're tracking the same information through sales, marketing, and service. I really think especially for marketing people that are trying to do an ROI on some of the campaigns they're running, they absolutely love the fact that they can tie the closed opportunity back to the campaign it came from. So it's kind of the holy grail for marketing folks.
Right, and when you're starting to turn on things like AI, right, you have to have this accurate data, and you have to have a breadth that's just beyond sales. So having integrated marketing and sales information, and then giving an AI to say what's the likelihood that this lead's going to buy, those types of analysis really aren't possible unless you're working with a single database or a highly integrated database.
So that was a good overview. I think that hopefully some of the folks in our audience can relate to at least one or two of these, or maybe hopefully not all of them, because if they're experiencing all of them, it may be time for a switch. But this is kind of as Sam mentioned, we had to shortlist down to 7. We had over 12 at one point, but these are some of the key areas, and there may be more. But this is kind of a nice overview of some of the issues that you're facing using a legacy CRM system.
And so we have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just about to jump in just because, you know, as a marketeer, it is fascinating to me, and what you gents have just been discussing is truly, you know, for me personally, really educating and also giving me some good insights as to, you know, different marketing CRMs and technologies that I've worked with, and kind of reminded me of some of the older ones and how difficult it was to do certain things, and how that has changed very dramatically. But we have a poll, so let's just get right to the poll. And the question is, we want to ask the audience about your own challenges in terms of, you know, these CRM systems, working with CRM systems. What have you experienced? Tell us. You know, you have kind of 4 options here. Is it the interface? Is it kind of siloed departments, log data, inaccurate and outdated customer data? Is it lack of omnichannel engagements? Please do give us some thoughts on what you think. In the meantime, as the audience is answering the question, we do have several questions already for you gentlemen, and potentially if you could give us some insights from your very rich experience on this. This first question is about an evaluation model. So the question is there an evaluation model or criteria that can help define what features are already outdated in my CRM, right? So would you say there is a process that can be implemented for this, or some way to audit and evaluate what is it that you have that you should really consider and potentially change?
Sam, do you want to take that one? Or?
Yeah, I was going to take. I thought you were taking a shot. No, yeah, I can. Yes. So the answer is yes. The correct process is always for any type of evaluation, is to first document all what you're doing and what you want to do, and what your key problems are. And then once you have that, there are plenty of evaluation checklists. I believe we have one on our website that you can download. But if not, I will make sure I get one out there, and you can just take a look at it. It has a list of all the different features for all the different products, but then you match up your need to those features, and that's how you look at software.
And hopefully some of the things we talked about today will kind of, shed some light on what might be missing in some of those outdated systems. But again, I think most times today we're replacing an existing system, and there's a list of reasons why you're replacing a legacy system. Some of them are obvious, some of them not so obvious, but it's important to sort of reevaluate every few years or so to see where you stand and make sure you're getting the most out of the system you're using.
Sure. Thank you for that. I have one more. Let's take one more question here. And again, this is to both of you. Is it possible to enhance only one particular features, or do I need a complete new CRM solution? Right. So of course, there might be. I would imagine there might be CRM systems that are more flexible than others and allow you to change things kind of more in a more custom way. But it seems like, at the end of the day, low code would probably be that technology that allows you to kind of enhance your features most and to the largest extent, and as you see fit. But what do you think? And John, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, I think oftentimes it's kind of the Band-Aid approach, right? We have one problem, let's find a way to fix it, put a Band-Aid on it, and hope that Band-Aid sticks, because our whole business depends on this system. So you can find ways to take care of one issue you might be facing. Maybe there's some third-party tools that you can add on to add functionality that's not there today. But I think if you have more and more of those Band-Aids, or you're not confident they're going to stick, it might be time to evaluate a new CRM solution. And there's some pain in switching from one platform to another, but the benefits will far outweigh that work that you have to do to migrate. And I think that's always the thing. We talked about workarounds earlier. You can keep on putting Band-Aids and finding workarounds, but at some point you're going to be frustrated and saying, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's what we're talking about with low code. It is definitely the new trend in this space to be able to make those changes very quickly and very easily without slowing any of the business down.
Yeah, I would say that it's an ROI analysis, right? If you're making an investment, you're buying a third-party product, or you're building a custom solution to fix one of these issues, you got to weigh the cost of maintaining that now against the cost of moving to a new system, and the savings you're going to get, because that new system not only has that feature built in, but it also has other tools that let you make changes and adapt your system considerably faster than you can today. And the reality behind that is there's a higher value when you move to one of the newer systems, because you can adapt your business faster and the overall cost of operations are reduced. So you'd have to look at, again, the cost of the third-party product, or the dollars you have to invest and maintain it, versus the benefits you get from switching.
As
Sure.
people talk about total cost of ownership, and that can definitely drop with the low code applications, because you're not relying on expensive developers or outside the resources to help you make those changes. You're able to do that yourself, and then owning the product becomes less and less expensive.
Sure. So always make sure to analyze and put the right amount of time to which will help you make the right decision. Okay. Well, with that, let's see if we can close the poll and see the results, and look at that. Looks like 45% of our audience really sees this issue of inaccurate and outdated customer data. So there you go. And omnichannel engagements is another one. Really big one. So it looks like the interface itself isn't such a huge deal breaker quite yet, but of course,
a lot of millennials on this call, I guess.
but yes, but the issues are out there, and then there's some of them are looks like much bigger than the others, but still looks like we have pretty much all of them out there, and people are frustrated with all of these things. Okay, well, let's go back to the presentation. We now have a part about just a little bit about Creatio itself, and John, I'll hand over this part back to you. Just talk to us a bit about the Creatio platform itself, and what we call them, internally superpowers.
Perfect. Thanks, Lucian. Are you able to advance the slide, or?
Let's see, we should be able, yeah, let's get back to the presentation. We should be able to get there in just a second.
I'm not surprised at the top two responses in the poll. I would probably guess at those two, but customer data wins out. I'm kind of, you know, a lot of people don't want to admit that their data is antiquated or too old. It's just something that a lot of companies don't want to admit to.
Sure. Well, there we are. We're back to the presentation, and here we are. Here are the superpowers themselves.
Thanks, Lucian. Again, so when we talk about Creatio, this sort of what we call our superpowers and differentiators for our platform versus other solutions that are out there in the marketplace. We've already focused a lot on our BPM engine, the business process management engine, the workflow engine, being able to change processes faster than ever, and then go back and modify existing processes as you move forward. The second one is the low-code platform, really to make everyone a developer. I know that sounds kind of funny, but really a power user or a business analyst with a little bit of training can get in there and make modifications to the layout of fields, to the workflows that are in the system, and it's a real big part of our superpowers. And the last one, which I've also alluded in the presentation, is unified CRM, to really align sales, marketing, and service all on one platform, all on one database. Eliminates a lot of issues that you've probably seen in the past with integrations or just managing the data that sits in those different silos. So these kind of the three areas, and we'll get into a little bit more detail in each of these areas to explain how they're helpful. And we can just go right to the next slide. So we talk about the BPM engine. As Sam mentioned earlier, a lot of people have called things, you know, their business process management tool, their workflow tool, but you really have to have the flexibility of a strong and powerful BPM engine. It really serves as a foundation to the system and really helps automate both customer-facing processes and then other operational processes in the organization. And really the whole goal here is to drive efficiency and productivity and make gains there. If it's not an efficiency tool, then it's probably not worth the investment. But a lot of our customers find new ways to leverage the powerful workflow engine every day and give us new ideas. In fact, we even allow them to share that on our website to share ideas with other customers on how they've leveraged the platform to build specific workflows in the solution. And then we talk about our low code, and this is kind of, you know, again, sometimes it's an educational thing to talk about how the industry is changing, but it's really evolved. And I like the idea that someone said we kind of built a powerful low code platform, and we built sales, marketing, and service automation on top of that, just to show the power of it. So if we can build some world-class CRM solutions on top of the low code platform, think of what else you can do with it. So again, we give you the tool sets to allow you to configure the system without having IT skills or without having to rely on a third-party vendor to come in and do that for you. And this obviously increases time to market and reduces the total cost of ownership across the board. And then the last one, again, just getting back to, you know, we talk about how some small organizations can sometimes eliminate 3 different applications by implementing Creatio. They can replace their sales force automation tool, their marketing automation tool, even their service automation tool. But really, that's one of our differentiators, is that you can do all 3 on one database and really have that, what we call the 360-degree customer view. That's the mantra for again, maybe the holy grail for CRM solutions, is I want to be able to pull up a customer and see everything I'm doing with that customer across sales, marketing, and service, the whole journey of that customer. And that can help you identify upsell opportunities, can help you increase conversions, and most of all, just improve the customer experience. Because if the customer calls you and either the telephony system opens their record or you pull up their record based on information you can ask them, you want to be able to answer any question a customer has, whether it's sales related, marketing related, or even service related. And having that 360-degree view customer view allows you to do that. And that's one of our unique differentiators. So when we talk about the platform, this is a great slide because it really kind of wraps everything up in one package. We talk about the foundation, our studio product, which is the low-code platform, and the powerful workflow engine. And then on top of that, we've built modules for sales automation, marketing automation, and service automation. And then the marketplace is available on our website where third-party connectors and third-party applications can be used to extend the value or the feature set of Creatio. And some of them are free, some of them are paid, but it's a great place to search for connectors and different ways to leverage the platform. But this really kind of is one picture. I always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. It really sums up the platform. Again, everything off of the low-code studio product with our powerful process engine. And the nice thing is you don't have to start with all sales, marketing, service. You can start with just sales automation. And then when you decide to take on marketing, it's just enabling more functionality. It's not installing anything new. And the same with service. You're licensing new parts of the application. You acquire those licenses, you turn it on, and it's the same UI, it's the same database, everything's the same. And I think that's one of the reasons why our customers like it so much is you don't have to go out and just replace everything. You can start with one and then evolve into those other areas. And as I said earlier, more and more of our customers are finding ways to leverage a studio product outside of sales, marketing, and service. So you think of things like employee onboarding. Every company does that. That's a workflow. You can put your employees in the database as contacts and then attach the workflow as a new employee is onboarded. Even things like expense requests or travel requests, if we get back to travel someday, are all things that our customers are doing, leveraging the powerful workflow engine of the studio product. I know, Sam, if you want to add anything here with your experience working with different solutions that are out there.
Well, I have to say, you guys have probably one of the best, most complete solutions on the market today. And I think that's why you get recognized by Gartner and Forrester.
I think that really stands out. And I like this slide. I always say, if I have slides to say, if you're going to remember one slide, this is the slide to remember because it really kind of sums everything up.
Super. Thank you, John and Sam, much appreciated. And at this point, we have a Q&A. We don't have all that much time, but I think there's one question that would definitely, I think, is worth asking both of you. And that is from the audience. And the question is, what is coming next? What more can we expect in the continuous development of CRM software? What does the future hold for CRM in your perspective? You know, we've looked a lot back in legacy terms and what's been in the past, but where does it go next? What else is out there?
I can probably start off answering the question. I think we touched on it a little briefly during the presentation, but artificial intelligence, AI, is a big part of the future of CRM, and you can bundle in machine learning with that. If you can start to leverage the data you have to make predictions and make accurate priorities and things like that in the system, the example I use is a lead comes in and the system can score that lead based on historic data, saying that we have a 70% likelihood of closing this deal because of all the historic data we have in the system. So that lead gets prioritized. That's going to be the lead we call first because it's ranked the highest. And that's one thing that companies are going to use more and more with the CRM system is use it and the data inside it to make those predictions and make those calls for you and really saving a lot of time, but really making you focus on the most important things first.
Yeah, there's a couple things I see. I think in the service side, IoT, Internet of Things is you're going to start seeing products come out with self-diagnostics that will call you up and let you know when they're not working. And they'll piggyback off of common infrastructures in homes like the Google House or the Amazon Alexa. I just woke it up, damn it. And so on. So you'll see things, devices literally calling in. Your TV is going to call and say something's wrong with it and it's going to need a repair, and they're going to send you a message saying you need to get it this serviced. I think you're going to see that happen. I think the learning machine component of AI provides the biggest value, particularly when we get to the point that we have enough accurate and clean data. And I just read something about one company's doing research where they're actually trying to train a AI to determine whether the quality of the data is good or not. And so I think you're going to see that combined with there's companies out there that provide data cleaning services. You're going to see those two things start to combine to produce real-time data cleaning. I mean, it would be really amazing to know that Joe switched jobs, right? And so the AI can then just retire him. So I think those are probably the two biggest. And then I think, you know, again, we're still moving more and more mobile. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see that continue on that path. So there'll be more and more functionality around mobile, but they'll be um, oriented to the mission. So my mobile apps are not going to be general CRM apps like they are now, where I can create an opportunity, but they're going to be more aware of what I'm doing at the moment and give me only stuff that I should be doing. So if I'm not at my office, but I'm at a different building, it should be coming back to me with here's the 3 people or prospects you have in this building, and here's all the current notes, here's all the current support. You know, that's what the mobile app will eventually be doing. It'll be location sensitive information and role sensitive information.
I always say, Sam, you can always look at social media to see what's coming next. Whatever social media is doing is probably the next best thing for CRM. Like, you know, location finder, tell me where I am, who's near me, what customers are near me, what prospects are near me, and those are all things that are available today in social media. And I'm sure they'll be a big part of CRM moving forward.
Maybe a TikTok integration, something to consider. But anyway, we are at the top of the hour, and so I just wanted to thank you both for leading this fantastic discussion and giving us your experience and your insights. I just wanted to remind everyone that the session has been recorded, and we will be sure to share it with you in the next a day or two. And then please be sure to check out creatio.com and our events section, where you will find lots of other events. And of course, coming up, we also have, again, here's our YouTube channel for you to check out for this recording and for others. But I also wanted to let you know, and for those who already know, that we also have a huge digital event coming up on October 28th. It's a 24-hour event, so please check out again creatio.com/accelerate, as this is the name of the event, and you'll find all the details about the event there. But at this point, again, thank you both, and thank you for the audience for sticking with us for the whole hour. And yeah, we're looking forward to have another session like this in the coming future. But hopefully, this has been helpful and useful, and you will benefit from it in your CRM decisions going in the future. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.